Hello, if you're one of the many people who has financial problems or money worries and you'd like to be able to get past that and live a life that's truly what you'd love to be doing, then I'm Dr. Ann Curtis, and here's an interview that I did recently with Julian Freeman, who's been through that situation himself and would like to share with you how it's possible for any of us to live the life we'd really love to live, whatever our worries.
It's interesting because I was talking to Dick and Bettinger maybe 2 weeks ago, and he said some stuff, and I kind of realized that although I've had this understanding for about 8 years now, like there's a whole nother level of it. Like I whatever I understood to be true isn't. There's more. There's a lot more. So that's kind of nice, actually. I love the fact that you can just keep on kind of getting it even better. I can remember when I first started, I started with a guy called Jamie Smart, and he was, you'd have these insights where you said the same words as you said before, but I know, no, but it means so much more to me. I mean, the same words mean so much more to me now than they did. So it's kind of like that, but bigger, all over. So that's what I'd kind of love to talk about today. But in the context of where I started all this, which is life beyond money, I'd call it. And I wrote a book about it. It's quite. I quite like that book, even though it was 2013 I published it, and it related to kind of 2011 and 2012, around that period when I was getting the principles. And when it started with my mum dying, and in my mum's illness, it asked me the question: are you making a living, or are you making a life? And very simply, it was just about, do you want to go and look after your mum while she's got this really horrible illness, and which she ultimately passed away from, or do you want to carry on, shelling out the cash? And that kind of left me with shelling out the cash was important, but shelling out the cash, there was no juice in it. There was no joy. There was no joy. There was no purpose for the world. I mean, and I think there was. If you consider kind of your thought system to be like a candy floss machine, where you stick the stick in and twirl it round, and all this stuff comes onto the stick, creates a lovely kind of cloud of pink candy sweetness, sticky. Then the center of my cloud was about being successful. About I had to achieve certain things to be successful. But of course, we all know, or maybe we don't, that success is right here, right now. And maybe that's a big, because then that's a huge step to the outside. If you're always trying to achieve something, trying to get there somewhere, and the somewhere is never enough, was my experience of it. So that was kind of life with money, was just never being able to achieve as much as I thought I should be achieving, as much as I compared myself to other people achieving. And the change that happened for me was to live with my mum and we had a fantastic relationship for the 9 months of, that we were together, etc. And even in the final conversations that we had, there was no thought in the room. There was just us. The love in the room was just palpable. It was amazing. And that's so different. That's living such a different kind of life to the one where you're just chasing the money. Now, I just want to caveat that by saying my chasing the money life, it was successful in lots of ways. We had cars, we had motorbikes, we had horses, we had a lovely car. I mean, by a lot of people's standards, that would be successful. It just didn't feel very good. I mean, I would say that I was depressed a lot of the time. If the doctors had asked me that, they asked me that question every year at my medical about, do you get depressed often? And I would go, oh, that's the saving word, often, because it's sometimes, but it's not too much. So I will say no, because for some reason, I never wanted to go anywhere near the drugs that are associated with depression, etc. And I think that the depression was just, when you're trying to figure it out, when you're trying to be positive, when you're trying to deal with all that candy floss thinking, you're just trying, and it's all hard work. And go back to the contrast between that and my being with my mum. There was just being in the moment. There was just the next meal or the next piece of caring or the next chore to be done, etc. And it was just very present, really present. Now, at that stage, I hadn't heard of the three principles at all. So just proves to everybody here that we operate to the principles. Life. That's the way life works. And so here's a big thing, okay? I've been talking to some people through the last few years, and I'll give you a couple of stories. I mean, one guy I had who was talking to me, and it wasn't really because I was being a coach, although I have done some coaching, but it's really more about conversations. And the people came to me at the right time, because what was happening for me was I was seeing life differently, and my life was starting to change. And was it me? I don't think it matters whether it was or not, but life was sending me opportunities like my mum's illness. And it was steering me, it was moving me in a different direction. And I spent a lot of time in the next couple of years asking myself the question, well, how's this going to work? Because before, in my old life was all about planning and controlling things and knowing where we were going, etc. But in the new life, when you follow what life is bringing you, it's like a sat nav. Okay, you can see the car is on the little ribbon taking you somewhere. But the subtle difference is that you don't know the destination, and you don't even know the route. Like once you put something into a sat nav, it shows you vaguely the route. And you go, oh, okay then, and then it starts. But after that point, you don't get to see the route anymore. And I think that's more the journey that I'm on now. Is that if the sat nav is there, the sat nav is guiding me. I just don't know where it's leading. And in the old world, you go, well, hold on a minute, I need to know, because I need to know where I need to be by then and get it organised. And of course, that's where a lot of the anxious thinking would come from. It's like, well, we're not making enough progress. We should be there by then. We should have achieved this. And really, it's so nice not to have those pressures, not to have. And then that was lovely. So I came into contact with a few people who were like this guy who'd lost his business, and his wife was in an acrimonious divorce with him, and all of that stuff looked absolutely, like a terrible life, because he was looking in the old direction of travel. He was looking at what was happening to him in life through his old eyes. And what was really occurring, he then, in one short moment, he said to me, but I've got a lady who absolutely loves me to bits. And I went, that's it. That's your new life opening up. That's your new direction of travel. Look there. Because that's where you're headed. Whenever you're, headed this way and looking that way, it doesn't work. Lots of thinking. Get the candy floss out and start spinning it, But when the moment he started to see, the moment he started to see that the true direction that he was traveling in, he could relax into that and then see more of what was there in that direction for him. And his life did start to build in that direction. Another lady, so that guy was in UK, and then a lady in America who got in touch with me, and she was struggling because she was in a business that she didn't agree with or believe in, and the clients weren't the right, weren't nice to work with anymore. And then it was she was asked to leave her accommodation or house that she was in, with 6 weeks notice or whatever it is. And she was like, it's all disintegrating around me, and everything that I had and knew and the solidity of it was all going. And then she met a lady, and they really hit it off, and they started working together, doing the business in the way that she wanted to do business with, the kind of people she wanted to do business with. This lady just happened to have part of her apartment that was that she could use, so she then had a place to live. And so it was like, as long as she was looking in the old direction, she couldn't see what was there for her. And the moment she started to see that she was just moving in this new direction, you see, life is, the game changes. It's not one game for 10 years. It's often, it changes. You'll be moving along and it goes, now turn left, and you go, what? But I'm quite happy going along the way. Like back to the sat nav, how often is it? This is something I've done quite a bit. I'll go, I know a better way, and so I'll turn somewhere, and then the sat nav's going, at the next possible opportunity, take a right, that kind of thing. And then it goes, and if you keep ignoring it, it goes, and now make a U-turn, and you're going, no, I know better. But all the while, you're getting further and further off track. And we do that. Innocently, we think we know better. Innocently, we think we can control it. So it's about going with that. Where is life leading you? And life gives you lots of clues. It gives you lots of clues. And you just have to be open to exploring with them and not worrying that it's not the way it used to be. It's not the way you think it ought to be. It's not the way. Because then this side is so juicy, like so after my mum died, I started trying dramatically to, like, really working hard on creating a new business and so on, which was a complete waste of money and time. Although it was me going left and life going, no, take a U-turn. But in 2014, I realized that I'd picked up a camera in 2010, and I'd loved it all the way through. That's the thing I really loved doing, was, picking up a camera and filming people and stuff, and that's where the juice was for me. So it's like, okay, I'm just going to do more of that. In fact, that's all I'm going to do now. So I had, like a lot of people in this world who come into the principles, I had thought to help people through coaching, etc. But actually, my way is to make films. It's to make films that I think show what's possible for people in their lives. Because what's on offer here is, are you making a living or are you living a life? And when you go with the life angle, and you go with, being of service in a way that suits to life, that suits you, it's so much more enjoyable. It's really, I can understand why Sid Banks said it's heaven on earth, because it really does feel so nice. Who wouldn't want to live like that? I was sitting with my friend Chris Noonan the other day. We were sat on a bench looking out, and I said, we could be in the Caribbean now if we wanted to be, rather than sat here on this park bench. But actually, being sat here on this park bench feels perfect, so there's no need to be in the Caribbean. I have no business plans for my filming thing. Look, I remember certain people saying to me, "Well, it's just a hobby," and maybe in some ways, well, I don't know. Does it need to be a hobby or a business, or what? I just keep doing it. That's one of the things that is a good signal that you're headed in this direction. Is if you're doing it anyway, if you're inspired to do, if despite all your thinking, you look down at your feet and you find you're headed in this direction, it can't be wrong. You might have thinking about that, and then your job is just to go with it, to drop the thinking and enjoy going in this direction. You know, I've talked to a couple of people over the weekend about I call it flume thinking. You know, have you ever been to the water parks where they have these flumes and you get to the top of the flume, like it's a big tunnel thing, and you throw yourself into it and the water takes you down and throws you around, and it's quite an exciting ride. Well, a lot of people have this thing where they're stood at the top with the bar where you start, holding on for grim death and going, shall I or shan't I? Shall I or shan't I? Well, you go first. And then these little kids come in and they go flying down and they haven't got any thinking about it, and they just enjoy the ride. And of course, once you've let go of the bar and got started, you can enjoy the ride too. You do enjoy the ride too. There might be the odd moment where you go, it takes you by surprise, but you know that's got nothing to do with the flume. Nothing to do with the flume. So that's the only thing that really occurs to me now. And I have to go back to my book. There's the second section of my book is a kind of short sort of periods of my life where I was either thought I was in control again, and then I kind of went, well, what are you doing trying to be in control of this all over again? Let go of it. And that seems to me to be the only doing here for me, in terms of understanding the principles, is to let go, is to I keep finding places where I think success is, or I think I am, and then none of that's true. None of that is true. I've been making films for the last 4 years. I think they've got better. I think I make pretty good films now, actually, and films that touch people with the feeling. So when you watch my films, um, you don't get somebody talking head and shoulders to camera like I am now. Or maybe what's important about this live is nothing to do with the words that I'm saying. It's just if you're getting a sense of how excited I am, how interested I am with where life is leading, even a sense of the like. I had a conversation with Jamie Smart going into 2012, where he said to me, there was a lovely coaching question that was around at the time, which was, what would it be like, what would have to happen for 2012 to be an adventure? And I said to him, I kind of pulled the phone away from my hand and I said, adventure, it's just going to be another year of hard graft, like all the others. And then I didn't understand that at all, the possibility that life could be an adventure, because I was still looking the old way. And then now I've moved over, and that everything's an adventure. You know, when I make a film, just meeting the person, connecting with them, that's wonderful. You know, in the old days, I used to call it business development, and you had to do so many calls and meet so many people in a week. And I don't do any of that now. people drop in, we have a conversation, and if I get excited about films, and if they don't want to make a film, then I still had a great conversation with them about making a film. And maybe there's something else in it. Maybe there's something else in our connection together that's not about filming, but it's a lesson there's something for me or something for them. So that's great. And then there's the making the film. I enjoy that. And then there's which is, because it's a guy with gadgets. You know what us guys like. We love playing with gadgets and stuff. And then there's the actually meeting them on camera. The wonderful space that gets created when you set the camera up and start filming people, and really getting to know them. And I've got a film called Two Views, because I think always my films ask a question of the person who's being filmed that they hadn't considered. They're like, it's a chance for them to slow down and consider something. And it's amazing what comes out. And then for me, seeing them and seeing how the place they're in and how they're responding, it's like coaching. It's like them coaching me, or the camera coaching me. I can't quite articulate that. So then there's the actual making of the film and the publishing of the film, and it is all just so much fun. What would it be like for people to live, work in an environment like that? I mean, that's what I call an adventure. That's what I call. You just won't know what's around the next corner. But in a good way. So if I go back to my old life, I'd go, well, how's that going to work? I need to take control of this. Certain things need to happen, and then in would come all the anxiety and the frustrations and all the rest of it. And yet now I just see it as a beautiful, magical adventure most of the time. Then we need to pay the rent. But even then, somehow it gets done. Like, I'm trying to make a big documentary. I'm sorry, no, that's not true. I am making a big documentary, and I put up a Patreon page, which you could look at, and to try and get people to back the film. So I've got some money to travel and film and stuff, and and I haven't got many backers. A bit like Nick Bettini with his Just Play thing. For me, it hasn't stopped me from doing what I've started the documentary. I've been to Spain and filmed. I've been to Norway and filmed. I've filmed here in Middlesbrough, and I don't know where next. I keep thinking there's a trip to the US coming, but the documentary is already happening. And even though I haven't raised the money I should have raised, and I found some lovely people. I met a lady who's a TV film producer. I've got an editor. I've got a composer. I've got photographer. The whole team's coming together. So, and that's that old thing about when it's meant to happen, it all falls into place relatively easily. When it isn't meant to happen, it's not relatively easy at all. It's the difference between life before the life sentence. I've only got 20. I've got to kind of figure it out for the next 20 years or 30 years. I wonder what tomorrow brings.
Marina Gallen, by the way, has said that you're coming to Mexico.
I hope so. I really do hope so. I mean, I haven't had a chance to meet her in person yet, and so that would be lovely. And I'm sure, again, there is an opportunity to. There's something in this filming business that I love capturing people, and then they can make a real impact, and I can make a real impact, I suppose. So yeah, I've had 90,000 views on my. Now that might not be much by some people's standards, but I think that's not bad going. Not bad going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and I love the fact that the more part of the adventure that it's like the camera just leads and I follow. This is where it's taking us. This is who we're meeting, and that's we went down yesterday. We went in search of sunset, because I've got Chris here at the minute. We went in search of a sunset shot, and we ended up on a foggy Mask beach, a northeastern beach. But the tide was like, because it's a full moon, the tide was way, 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 way out, and it was just magical and so unusual. And so that's another example of, I went looking for this, and this was there, and all we did was enjoy what was there for us. Which probably brings me to probably my big point of all of this, which is, well, I suppose the first one is, don't look there. Don't look the old way. The old way is not relevant anymore. Look for the new. Look for the things that are enjoyable, juicy. You know, that's where it is. That's where the joy in life is. And also that you have to be present to do it. You have to be in a place where you're not. I can remember my wife walking the dog in the woods, and she sort of stopped and said to me, "Look, you're always either looking backwards or looking forwards. You're never right here, right now." And that was a problem. That really was a problem for me. So I think that is a really important point here, is don't, if you're doing this, even if you're doing that too much, looking into the future and trying to kind of second guess what life is sending you, then that's not leaving you here to see what's arriving for you right here, right now. And when you do that, so one of the, how does it pay the rent? Well, first of all, if you're present, you're going to see the opportunities. You're going to see the things that make sense to you, and you're going to act on them and do them and be of service, and that will be drawing you in a direction. And then hopefully there's enough value in doing that. And if you're in this direction and you're worried about how I need to be able to pay the bills, and I've got this coming up and that coming up and so on, it doesn't put you in a good situation to be creative, to be to come up with the solutions to ride life in the way it should be ridden, or to interact with it in the way you should interact with it. So it's not helping you to look at it the old way either. It's only when you're here, when you're giving yourself that space to see what the next step is. I love Elsie Spittle. I can remember working with Elsie Spittle when we did the Genesis of the Three Principles DVD, and she would be like, we don't need to worry about that now. That's in the future, and the future will sort out the future. Us of the future will sort out the future. All we need to do is to deal with what's here for us now, today. See what the next step is, just the next step. Money worries is just trying to see too far ahead. All those stories that you built up over the, back to life being a game, an ever-changing game. I can remember there was an old NLP saying that went along the lines of, the map is not the territory. And I never quite understood that, but I can see my teenagers, they're all going, I've got a map for this, I've got a map for that, I know how that, tell me how that works. And then they go, right, I've got the complete set now. And what I know now is that life just changes, and you might as well go, right, maps might be relevant, but actually they might not. They might not be helpful. Throw them all away. See what's there. The game is changing. My children, there's so much more on the internet than I am thinking about real life. Come and join real life. It's not all on the internet. Or is life at all on the internet? Is it the greatest metaphor for the illusion ever?
Yeah.
And but then I'm just looking at it in my like I'm getting a map out and going, well, I don't think this internet thing's, we should be doing stuff outdoors and stuff. And maybe that's an old map. Maybe the new world's going to be, who knows what the new world's going to be? Who knows? Who knows? Do we need to know? Yeah. Oh, so there's another thing. So that builds on that, which is, I've got a kind of comment on the 3 principles community. Now, we're really good at getting into what mind, consciousness, and thought is. And for me, that's like saying, I am now going to, remember my candy floss metaphor. It's like, I'm now not only going to show you the stick and how it's made and how long it needs to be, and I'm going to give you the recipe for the sugary stuff. I'm going to dismantle the machine so you know exactly how the machine works, right? And then you'll be the best candy floss maker in the country. Now, there's a certain usefulness to understanding that. Mostly it's about whenever you put the stick in, forget it. Just let go of the stick. Just don't make the candy floss. And then you don't even need to know how it works anymore. And that is the point, is when we're trying to discuss the principles, we're missing this. Life's there going, hold on, there's something here for you. And you're going, no, I'm busy with the principles. And this life is where all the juice is where it's heaven on earth, is, and so I started. I mean, I just happened to get to film some great people, and I started to. It was Dickon that started it with me, and he leaned over to me in the car once, and he said, "Just told me a little story about Sid." And I just thought, isn't that a wonderful thing for people to, because and the reason why we did the Genesis of the Principles DVD was because Elsie was absolutely clear. She had an insight that the 3 principles is one side of the coin, and the experience that happened to Sid Banks and the way he lived his life is the other side of the coin. And without both of those, you haven't got the principles. And at the moment, we're making so much out of the principles. This is my own personal view, but this is what I see. And we're making so much out. Even me making my films, I am putting some form around the principles, which may or may not be. It's the best I can do. But so I started collecting these stories of. So what was it like to be with a man who had that experience? What was he like? And not because there's a lot of people that I talk to now who like I did earlier on go, well, Sid would say this. Sid would have thought this about it. Sid would, and like, I never knew him. I wouldn't even presume to. I did watch a few DVDs where he said some stuff, and I listened to some audios and stuff, so I know what he said in that context. But to get these stories down of what people who knew him, how they experienced him, that I'm hoping that's starting to show what the other side of this coin looks like, because that's the living life. That's where the gold is here. That's life beyond money. That's where the enjoyment of heaven on earth actually is. And so I launched this series that's available on Vimeo now, and I hope a lot of people will watch. And as I get to film, as I get to film more good people talking about Sid, and I'm not particularly going after the well-known names. I'd love to get more of the people that knew him in the early days and were with him in the early days of of developing this understanding, and just get their take on it, and their take on him, and what was it like to live in that environment, because that's what I'd love for us all to. That's the life I'd love for us all to be living. When you're doing that, I think everything gets taken care of, and it doesn't matter to me nowadays whether I'm a millionaire or not.
Yeah, lovely. Okay, so there's people saying hi, which and Chris Noonan has just asked if he can come on and say hello to you.
He's next door.
Wait a minute, he says, I want to go to Mexico too. I love this.
He's welcome to, and we've already we seem to be planning trips to all kinds of places. It's really nice to get a chance to. I have I suppose my is it a confession? I haven't been good at getting visible myself. I thought for a long time that my films were enough, but I think it's important for me. Well, and then I had some strange things where I would go to certain events and people would know who I was. It was like, wow,
Yeah.
how does that happen?
Yeah.
And so despite myself, I've been getting more visible. But now I think this really just feels this message about what's possible for people, the way they can live their lives, is way bigger than a thing called mind, consciousness, and thought. It starts there.
Yeah.
It starts there.
Yeah.
But transcend that, go beyond that, and oh my God, a lovely life awaits. And that's what I'm inspired to get at. That's what I'm inspired to share like this, to make in my films, and I'm hoping that I'll get to complete this documentary, and I'd love for there to be some live screenings of it. Gosh, I could dream about where all this could lead, but it's just while I'm having fun along the way, that's all that matters. And I hope people enjoy the film.
That's what's Chris saying now. Julian's new series goes to the essence of the principles through stories of Sid. It's incredible.
See, I've got one fan. Thanks, Chris.
No, you've got two at least, because someone else said earlier on that they're brilliant too.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Susan Wheeler Hall said they're excellent films.
No, thank you.
So lots of good feedback already. It's lovely to see you in person and to hear your story and to find out what's been happening for you, and see you as a real person, not just the films.
A real person. Yes. One of the things I love about filmmaking is the creativity of it, and the more I do it, the less I feel it's me that's doing the creating. I'm like sitting there and tapping the keys, and something's coming to me to say, oh, do that, film that. And so I'm so interested to see what life serves me up next, what film I'm going to make next, who that's going to take me to meet, what it does for them, and it's just such an interesting way to live. Lovely.
It totally is. It totally is. I had absolutely no intention of doing these live. That just happened, and then all sorts of things have happened as a result of that. And I'm just like, oh, I wonder what's happening next. It's got such good fun, and I've met such lovely people doing it too.
Yeah. No, I've been seeing you've got some great people on. So yeah, it's really worthwhile. And like the good thing about YouTube, etc., is that YouTube kind of curates your films nice, or Vimeo kind of curates your films nicely, and I'm not sure how Facebook does all that.
Well, there's two things really. One is that on Facebook, in the group, there's a tag for videos, so you can go into the videos tag and you can see them all in there. But I will be downloading them all and putting them all onto YouTube in any case.
Terrific, because I think that's one of the other things that I like about films is that, and the films that I've been making, is that assume that life turns left and I don't make films anymore, there'll still be a body of work.
Yeah,
people can still watch that body of work, years after I'm not doing it anymore. So that's all got to be good news.
Yeah.
So Dave Lee he contacted me before this and said he might not be able to watch it, but Money Worries was on his mind. So I just want to put an offer out there to anybody because I've been through all this, and just on the subject of money, it's amazing the stories people have about money, the different types of candy floss. You've got people who've got no money who have got thinking about having more. You've got people with lots of money who've got thinking about having too little, or needing more, and every kind of shape in between. So I'm totally open to have conversation with anybody, because I kind of very comfortable with, at the end of the day, it's just your story. It might be one that's particular to you, but it's just a story. And when you see beyond the story to what's really there for you, and then the game starts to change. And then if anybody would like to, and the Stories of Sid is available on Vimeo on demand. You can sign up for my YouTube channel to watch my films, which I produce on a kind of reasonably regular basis. Breckenhill.org.uk have some great films that I've done for them with Bill Pettit, and now Dick and Bettinger sharing the principles. Although I know there's a lot of, but the Bill Pettit one in particular is brilliant from a point of view of connecting the psychological, medical understanding of mental health with the three principles. So that's really good. And Dickon, if you want to know more about this being present, about dropping back into the now, I'm going to imitate him, except I can't do the accent. But then Dickon's really got that down at the moment. That whole kind of come into the now, and that'll allow you to see what's there. And he's so good at that. So good at that. Yeah. So, and the journey goes on. If the people want to film, if they want to be more visible, I'd love to talk to them about filming with them. And then who knows where. Yeah, I'm looking for people to follow, to do the documentary with, like people whose lives are in the process of changing, and because the film's going to be about how we can all navigate our lives in a beautiful, way more beautiful way than we thought was possible. And I want to film that, because when people remember that we are way more capable, that we are you don't need those maps, you don't need the flotation aids, you float in life. And life supports you. That old Rolling Stones track, this is probably the way to leave it. That Rolling Stones track is, you don't always get what you want, but you get what you need. That's the difference.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you so much, Julian, for coming and talking to us like that. And I'll make sure to put the links to all of those things that you've just talked about with the video at the end.
Sure, brilliant. And even if it's just this, I'd really recommend right now the Stories of Sid thing, because I just love that, to get out there some more. Thank you so much for having me on, Anne.
You're very welcome.
And it's a real pleasure to spend some time with you.
Yes, you too. Yeah. All right. So bye for now, everyone, and we'll be seeing you again soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye then.